The views and opinions expressed on the Cap are those of the hosts. They do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of OldMilk Media. Any opinions stated aren't intended to offend anyone. On this episode of the Cap Podcast, we react to Alligator Bites Never Heal by Doechii. Welcome back. This is episode 517 of your critical but accurate tour through hip hop, the Cat Podcast. I am your tour guide, Nate Sperlin. Taylor, once again, is off. Thank you for tuning in on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever else you might be tuning in. Feel free to go ahead and support the channel. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, share with your friends, comment on this video, join the conversation, and comment on this video. And that being said, let's get right into it. On this episode of the Cat Podcast, we are reacting to Alligator Bites Never Heal by Doechii. This album, or excuse me, project, is 19 tracks, 47 minutes long. It only has one feature, and that is Cunt Fetish, and this is Doechii's debut project. So let's go first to my expectations, right? So first of all, I've known about Doechii since 2020. The first song I heard from her was Yucky Blucky Fruitcake, and there was such a personality on that song that I knew for a fact that she would be a star one day, and her being able to be signed by TDE also furthers that point. What I'm looking for is for her to continue to display a level of versatility in music that we rarely see. Um, and being on TDE, also, what I also expect from her is for her to be an example of artist development, because unfortunately, artist development is becoming less and less common in music. Case in point, unfortunately, Ice Spice. And then finally, I expect Doechii to establish her identity and have a story on this album, which introduces herself to new fans. Yeah. Moving on, let's talk about the packaging here. I like the album cover. I think the album cover of Doechii sitting down in a chair holding an alligator. First of all, she's much braver than I would be, because I don't know if I'd ever be holding an alligator. So that alone gives it a lot of luster for me. But same time, I haven't really seen much promo for this album either. So it seems like they're kind of trying to push it under the radar. And if it really starts to take shape and make waves throughout the culture, it's going to be on its own merit, which I think it has a potential to do. Moving on to my first thoughts, I think that Doechii has a nice ear for beats that feel nostalgic, but also putting a nice modern twist on them really help. Also, I also think she has the potential to be limitless. The way that she raps, like she can rap so many different ways, and also with that, you could pair that versatile rapping ability with her amazing singing ability. Also, so overall, like I think that looking at this album from top to bottom, if you're looking at the track list and you're seeing there's only one feature here, you might be kind of concerned if you've never heard Doechii before. But if you have heard Doechii before and you understand how versatile she is, then this makes complete sense. Um, continuing on with that point, about the one feature. Yeah, like again, like if you never heard of her before, usually when you have a debut artist, they're usually trying to perfect the one skill, and they have other artists on the album who are helping them with the other skills that they may not be trying to perfect here. But it seems like Doechii, for the most part, has a lot of things figured out about herself, about her artistic identity, and the way that she's able to explore that. It's great that she only has one feature, because that gives her the space to, in certain songs, if you really think about it, kind of be the feature, especially with the way that she approaches songs. She may approach one verse one way and approach a different verse another way. And that gives the song enough versatility to keep it fresh, keep it new, keep the listener engaged. Yeah, like I thought that she did a really good job of that. I also think that this album is a shining example of the importance of artist development. Again, I was first exposed to Doechii in 2020. It's 2024. So that's 4 years of artist development. And TDE seems to be the only label who still cares about their artists. Still cares about their artists' long term development. We hear the stories about SZA all the time, and the years that she spent perfecting her craft before she was finally pronounced to the world, or announced to the world, as one of the best artists that we have currently. So I expect that to maintain, and I expect that trend to continue because it's TDE. Also, last point before I get to the song by song, I think that the same way, this is weird, because I at first I thought it was a debut album, but it's really like a debut project. Doechii released a little paragraph or two thanking her fans and calling this album, or excuse me, project, a mixtape, which is interesting to me. It kind of reminds me of Kendrick Lamar's Section 80, where In my opinion, I count that as an album. Some people don't. Some people think that Good Kid, Mad City is his debut album, and for all intents and purposes, it is. But when you look at his discography, you look at the quality of work between Section 80, Good Kid, Mad City, To Pimp a Butterfly, and then Damn. When you look at that, the quality is consistent throughout the whole body of work, the whole throughout the whole discography. So that's why it's kind of weird for me to call Section 80 a mixtape. And I feel the same way about Alligator Bites Never Heal. Like it's kind of weird for me to call it a mixtape because it doesn't sound like a mixtape. It really does sound like a debut album, and that's how I'm gonna regard it. I understand that it's a mixtape, and there may be certain strategic reasons behind calling it a mixtape, but it really does sound like an album. So just to get into the song by song, the first song that we have here is Stankapoo, and I think that's a great way to start off a debut. We are greeted with like an extraterrestrial bass. And then that slows down. It's like a slow addition to the pace, to the beat as well. That makes for like a nice it lays like a nice bed for Doechii to be able to express her lyrical prowess. And then we get that. I like that her voice, we get our first taste of her versatility because her voice is kind of um it's not too aggressive, it's not too soft, it's like right in the middle. I would call it her inside voice flow. And I also like the ad-libs on that song. So I thought that was a great way to open up a debut mixtape, album, project, whatever you want to call it. It was a great way to open it up. So then we move on from there to Bullfrog, and I think that the placement of Bullfrog after Stanka Poo, I think that that's perfect. We get another taste. We get another taste of that minimalist beat, the slow instrumental and an occasional string instrument. And then Doechii once again just kills it. Um, I do think that I would have liked to hear this track be a little longer though, but that's like a very, very little nitpick. Moving on to Boiled Peanuts. This is really the first time we get like a full taste of the versatility from Doechii. Um, we get her kind of we get a little bit of her personality as there are points where she laughs throughout, and you can tell that she's really having fun. We get an occasional dragging of syllables also, and then we also get her playing with her cadence. So that's really the start of her starting to explore the different ways that her cadence could go, the different voices that she can use as she raps. And then that leads us perfectly into Denial is a river, which is I think that's like a hilarious pun. Because the denial, so denial is a river. I thought that's anyway. But I think here on this song, we start to get more of Doechii's personality. She starts off opening the song talking to her alter ego, which serves to be like either a friend or a therapist, and that person is basically saying, Doechii, it's been a while since we talked. We do you want to run me through what's going on? And then here Doechii raps about her. She basically catches her fans up about the journey from her EP "All the Places You Go," which came out maybe in 2020 also, um, and until now. So then we through that we see Doechii's ability to storytell, and then we also get more of her personality as she bounces back and forth with talking to herself or really talking to her alter ego. So I thought that was really cool. That's definitely one of the standout songs that I liked. We move on to Catfish, which is more of an aggressive Doechii, probably the most aggressive Doechii song out of the five tracks that we've gone through so far. The song construction here is interesting because it's kind of like in a throwback song construction where you have a hook. It's like two you have two verses and then you have the hooks on the sandwiching the two verses. So I just thought that was a really interesting way to construct the song. Um and now we move on to Skip, which once again, so far we've basically seen maybe two or three of the different things that Doechii can do, and now we add Skip, where we get more of this song is more focused on Doechii and her using her melody. So she opens the hook with the melody, and then we kind of get like we get different ways for her to melodically rap. throughout the song, and they all mesh together so well. Excuse me. I also think that one thing about Doechii that's really impressive is the way that she's able to maneuver between different flows, between rapping and singing, between different cadences, between being aggressive and then being soft. So I think that that's really impressive. That's something that we don't really see with artists, especially on their debut album or debut project. We don't really see that. But again, that goes to show how important artist development is, and that's why TDE is still going to be running the game because of their emphasis on artist development. Moving on, we get hide and seek. And here we get the full taste of Doechii's singing ability, and then we also are able to see how she pairs that singing ability with her rap ability, which is really, really excellent. And then we get Bloom, which is more of an interlude. We get Doechii talking about how she has different responsibilities and they all pull her in different directions. She's talking about how she has bills to pay, but then at the same time she wants to hang out with her friends, and then she wants to go see her family and things of that nature. And then so she's basically just talking about that type of stuff, and then she kind of like harmonizes with the beat. So it doesn't really it's a nice track. It doesn't really come off to me as a song, more of an interlude, which is perfectly fine. At this point of the album, she has me fully hooked, so she can really do whatever she wants here. So then we move from Bloom to Wait, and that's another example of Doechii's versatility. She maneuvers between singing the hook and harmonizing with the post hook, and then she raps throughout the verses. And the other aspect here that I really like is Doechii has way of being very visual with her lyrics, and that imagery plays through. Like you could listen to her and you could picture what she's rapping. And that's something that we don't really get from a lot of artists either. So it really seems like Doechii is just like she just has like all the best parts of hip hop just like rolled up into her, if that makes sense. And that makes it very exciting to see after, especially after this album, what she's gonna do after. Um, we move on to Death Roll, where we're going back to Doechii rapping. The thing that sticks out to me about this is the way that um, she's able to change the pronunciation of words so that they rhyme so that they rhyme more seamlessly. Like there are words where they rhyme already, but it may be like a slant rhyme, not a full rhyme, and she's able to change the pronunciation so it sounds like a full rhyme. And I think that adds to one, her showcasing her rapping ability, but two, it also adds to the song. It adds to the flow of the song, which is very helpful. And then we get Prophet, where she's just rapping about trusting herself. She's rapping about problems with her label, how they may have artistic disagreements. But she's still trusting herself in that because she knows that if she trusts herself, that's going to lead her to the most profit, hence the name of the song. And then we get one of the most popular singles from Doechii, which is Boom Bap. And this song is probably one of the shining gems, if not the shining gem of the album. It was nice for them to pick it as a single. It makes complete sense to pick it as a single. Um, there's a nice soulful sample here. Um, the sample builds an atmosphere where Doechii's lyrics, the way that she pronounces things, the way that she just raps in general comes through as sharp as possible. And I like at the end where we get the playfulness of Doechii singing Get Top on the phone and the different ways that she sings it. It starts off with her, well, first of all, throughout the song, she's really saying get top off the on the phone. But then towards the end with that outro, it starts with her singing it in auto tune, and then it transitions to her layering her voice. And I think that's an excellent touch as well. Another sample of how versatile Doechii really is as an artist. And then from there we get Nissan Altima, which is a really good song. It's more of a change of pace. It's more upbeat. It forces Doechii to rap fast, and she does that effortlessly. I can see the song being a hit in multiple environments. I can see it being a hit in the club. I can see it being a hit like at a family function or whatever. It's just so upbeat. It's so infectious. I also like the way that Doechii, you could tell that Doechii really knows what she's doing and how good she is on these songs also. Because at the beginning of the second verse on Nissan Altima, she starts off rapping and it's a cappella, and then the beat comes in. And you usually don't do that unless you know that you have your finger on the pulse, which she did on that song throughout the whole album she does. So yeah, like it's nice to see that she's also self-aware and she's also to uh feel the album, really, like feel the music, feel the impact that it may have on her listeners. So that's a nice touch. You always want an artist to be able to not only think about it from a perspective of, okay, I just did this, like this is going to be great and it should be great for these reasons, but also thinking about it from the fan perspective as if I'm the fan, what is going to keep me hooked? And I think that Doechii, it appears throughout this album that Doechii has that mindset throughout every single song, which is great. Um, Now we're on to GTFO, which is the only song with a feature on it. And it's a much slower pace track, but it's more aggressive. The bass is a darker vibe compared to the previous tracks. It might be the most dark vibe that we get on this entire album. And Doechii's ability to change her flow here is apparent, but I also like the feature of Cunt Fetish. I think that they mesh together, and it's a nice compliment to Doechii. We move on to Huh, which is, it kind of reminds me of Playboy Cardi. It also kind of reminds me of Gunna, where specifically the song Surf, which I personally don't like, but I do like this concept here with Doechii, which is kind of interesting. She like the hook is just her going like huh, 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 and that is really, really catchy to me. It's effortless as well. It doesn't seem like she's trying too hard. And I think that reason, the whole atmosphere behind that song is the reason why I like it. We move on to Slide, which is another display of Doechii's versatility. Here we're hearing her somehow like we get through all these tracks that I just talked about, and somehow there's another flow and another cadence that she could just pull out of anywhere. And the thing that makes this song so effective to me is the fact that she's doing this over like a summer pop beat. So it really sounds like something that should be played like outside, like at a cookout or whatever. So that's definitely going to be one of my favorite tracks. Then we get to Fireflies. And the thing that I take away from this once again is the descriptiveness and the imagery that she's able to put forth through her lyrics. I also think that, or not even I think, I noticed that Slide to the end of the album, it's really the beginning of it. It's really like a four-track story where she's talking about the beginning of a relationship and moving through the things that she did for him on Fireflies. And then Beverly Hills, we talk about how she's done with him, and then Alligator Bites Never Heals is a good way to close it out, talking about how you can't take everybody with you. So moving on to Beverly Hills, which is my favorite track. Um, First of all, the track listing once again is great because you have Fireflies, where you have Doechii rapping from the perspective of someone who's in love, and then Beverly Hills is Doechii rapping from the perspective of someone who that isn't in love anymore. They fell out of love. So here we have Doechii juxtaposing the concept that I just spoke about in Fireflies. And she's rapping about the things that she doesn't like about her boyfriend. She's rapping about reasons for her to break up with him. And the way that it's delivered is so, it has a sense of elegance, a aspect of elegance to it, which is really great. And then finally, we get to Alligator Bites Never Heal, which is a great outro. And continuing the theme of the breakup, we have a nice soft guitar, and then we have like a nice mellow. The guitar kind of reminds me of like a nice mellow meadow. And then we have Doechii who softly sings over that, and that is the album. Overall, there isn't a skip here, in my opinion. Playback value, subjectively for me, I think I can probably listen to this for 2 weeks, maybe even more, because of how great of a project it is. It kind of has the same impact that Pink Pantheress's album from last year had on me, and I spent months listening to that, and I can easily see myself doing the same thing here. Objectively, the issue isn't the quality, it's the quantity of people who even know that this album came out. And I once again think that they're trying to just have this fly under the radar and have it catch fire naturally. And I'm not sure with today's world of TikTok and you needing to be posted everywhere for people to know that you have an album, that will necessarily work. But the real hip hop fans will gravitate to this. But in general, I have to be honest, just because of the lack of reach that it seems that Doechii, like many starting artists have, I'm gonna have to say a week for playback value objectively here. All right, so let's get to my final thoughts. And my final thoughts are this album is dripping. Oh, excuse me, I said album. This project, excuse me, this project is dripping with versatility and potential as Doechii maneuvers between her multiple vocal talents to create a masterpiece of a debut. And this project stands as a shining example of the greatness that could come from a label investing time into developing an artist. My top three tracks: number three, Slide; number two, Boom Bap; and number one, Beverly Hills. And that is the Cat Podcast, episode 517. Don't forget to leave your opinion of Alligator Bites Never Heal by Doechii in the comments below. If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to like this video, subscribe to the channel, share with your friends. Once again, join the conversation. Follow Old Milk on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok at Old Milk Media. Check out oldmilk.co for more information. I'm Nate Sperlin, and we'll be back with Hip Hop Tells Us To, which is the next episode talking about Big Sean. So see you there. Thank you for watching, and I am out.